Right then, welcome back. Games X, issue number 5 from the 31st of May, 1991, the world's only weekly computer and console games mag. It's true, it was the only one, and probably remains the only one. It didn't really work, but it was good while it lasted. Great value, only 60 pence. So let's crack on in there. First thing we see is First Samurai. Now, yeah, pretty good game, based obviously around a samurai. I can't remember the guy's name. But yeah, I did like the first one, but my particular memories lie with the sequel, funnily enough, entitled The Second Samurai, which I had for, firstly, the Atari ST, and then latterly the Amiga. And essentially just a side-scrolling, beat-em-up stroke platformer. And yeah, it was good. It's a good laugh. Good game back in the day, as we say. A few other games here. One called Pegasus, which graphically looks really interesting. I've heard of it before. It's nothing new on me. Whether I've played it or not, I really can't remember. But like I say, in terms of, you know, the old aesthetics, then, yeah, mightily impressive. The clouds there, looking pretty nice. So the old London Monarchs there, American football team. I guess this is when American football was still kind of... It started, I think, didn't it, in the sort of mid-80s, early to mid-80s. It went through a little bit of a phase where it was pretty popular. And it obviously, you know, didn't make the back pages of the paper or anything, but popular at least in regards to a bit of a cult thing. And yeah, I guess that lasted till like the early 90s. I never really embraced it myself. I did try and get into basketball, but again, with it not being on TV in the UK, it was hard to keep in touch, unless you liked reading the results through teletext and things, because obviously this was pre-internet. So, but that was that. Those were the days. Pit Fighter. Now I know my good friend Pete Snestastic absolutely loves the arcade version of this, and graphically it looks brilliant, and I did enjoy it somewhat on the arcade, but the home conversions for me are bloody shocking. But then again, to be fair, you know, it's been many a year since I've played a Pit Fighter game, so I might like it if I went back to it, but I somehow doubt it. Here we've got Prehistoric, another game which I'm more than familiar with, but never played. But it looks bright and colourful. It doesn't look too bad at all. So what's this here? Some news on the Game Boy here. Licensed Day Game Boy owners. George Bush, that's the first George Bush, was tucked up in bed after his heart scare a couple of weeks ago. What did he use to relieve the stress of his job? Right, okay. So George Bush, like I say, the original George Bush from the 80s up into the early 90s, he apparently used a Game Boy to aid his recovery. Alcatraz is a game which I think looks absolutely fantastic. It's a game which I've never played, but I have owned it, shockingly, but never played it. Back, I'd say, in around about 2000, late 90s, early part of the millennium, I started picking up Amiga games, the majority of which I've still got back in the UK, and this is one of them. So when I said I had it, I technically still do have it. So yeah, I'll have to get that sent over sometime in the future, but it looks really good, and essentially, if you don't know what Alcatraz is, it's actually not that far from me. I'm not in it, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Why don't you do any videos outside? Is it because you're in prison? No, I'm not in Alcatraz. But it's not a million miles from me, and yeah, it's just a prison, essentially. And seen it a fair few times. Now look at this. There we go, the new Atari ST bundle. There's the Discovery Pack. In fact, let's bring in a prop. There we go. There's the bigger version. And that's the one that Dave, Psychofox, kindly sent to me with all the discs and manuals inside. So this is basically just talking about that bundle which was just about to come out. £299. And look at that, includes 4 games. Well, it must have been a different pack, because that one says Anarchy, Dragon's Breath, Indiana Jones and Super Cycle. I didn't get that, and funnily enough, neither did the people on the front, because I think it's that Final Fight on the front as well. Can't quite work it out. But obviously that must have been an early version, because the one I had Final Fight, it had SimCity, Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters, and all the rest of it. So yeah, absolutely, when I look at that picture of that little kid with the hat on, again, or just this, reminds me of being, well, just 13 again, 14, whenever I got it. It's just absolutely fantastic. Great memories. There's Arachnophobia, obviously talking about the forthcoming PC game of the movie, which was pretty freaky. Unless you don't have a problem with spiders. I hate the bloody things. Aqua Adventure. Or Aquaventure, I should say. Actually, Aquaventura. Get it right, third time lucky. And then we've got a game called Frenetic, which is for the Amiga and the ST. Now, it's quite ironic that, isn't it? Because it doesn't look frenetic at all. Anything but. That little peaceful Sunday morning stroll, I think, in space there. And what's this? The Giga Drive. The rumoured successor to the highly successful Sega Mega Drive edged ever... Oh, what does that say? Start again. The rumoured successor to the highly successful Sega Mega Drive edged ever closer with the official release of the specifications to the new Sega System 32 arcade machine hardware. Now, obviously, that must have been the, I guess, the Saturn. That's interesting. 1991? Bloody hell. How bizarre. Megalomania. Yeah, so Megalomania is similar to the likes of what was around at the time, Populous and Powermonger. Essentially a god sim where you could just take over the world and be God, I guess. But the slight twist to Megalomania is that you could be people from different times or different periods in time, such as the cavemen, I believe. Was it World War One or World War Two? Can't quite remember. Aliens, I'm sure you could be from outer space. So that was a nice little twist on that. You'd have thought if you're going to be the aliens, you'd have an advantage, wouldn't you? You just you'd have all the technology at your disposal, but I don't know. It's been years since I played it, can't remember. And there's a game there which looks really good. It's just one screenshot, and it is pretty basic, and it doesn't even want to focus in. But, oh, there we go. But it's called The Executioner, or just Executioner. And it looks like a cross between an Elite-style game and a sort of a shoot-'em-up. Very, like a trade-style game in space. Check that one out, I think. Alien Storm. Now, this is relatively controversial. When people talk about great games, they never bring up Alien Storm because it's not a classic as such. But I do know a lot of people like it. I've just got to be honest, I've never really thought it's been that good. Never thought that much of it. And I'm going back to when it first came out. I had it for the ST. Didn't particularly like it. It wasn't the worst game ever, but just didn't really see what the fuss is about. And then played it also on the Genesis, or the Mega Drive, I guess, the PlayStation 3 stroke Xbox 360 release. You know, it's got like 20, 30 Mega Drive or Genesis games on there. And I've played it quite recently. Again, I didn't think much of it. But what can you do? Everyone's got their own opinions. GamesX 20k software giveaway. Once again, Mike, that code is probably in there. And I've got 20 grand waiting for me. That'd be nice. Advert for The Eye of the Beholder. Decent game by US Gold. Love that old logo, looks brilliant. Gallup charts. There's Dizzy at number 1, as per usual. Back to the Future 3, number 6. I remember seeing that at the cinema with a couple of friends. And I thought it was alright, actually. I think it got a bit of a rough ride because it wasn't as good as the first two, but I don't mind Back to the Future 3, if I'm honest. Now, this is interesting because it highlights where all the money is going, or at least was, keeping it relevant back to the early 90s, when it comes to games, you know, because we all look at games as customers and consumers and we think that they're really expensive. You know, oh, 20 quid for a game, 40 quid for a game, or a bloody rip-off. But when it's all broken down, you know, by the time the taxman, as it touches upon there, taxman takes 17.5%, which is about 350 from, say, a 20 quid game, then it all adds up, and then you've got the middlemen, you know, who take certain percentages here and there. And then you look at the likes of the fact that, I guess if people are going for I guess which is what they're talking about here, you know, if people want a license, you know, if they want a licensed game from a movie or whatever, they've got to pay for that license. So all of a sudden, you know, these software houses are in debt. And I think that's possibly one of the reasons why we don't see more, you know, movie licensed games. I mean, there's a few around, but that's probably why we don't see that many, because the cost to get that license is astronomical, and there's no guarantee they're going to make it back, particularly in this day and age with PS3s and 360, where development costs, you know, are already through the roof. So that could be a reason why. But yeah, I found that really interesting, little top there. What I'll do is I'll focus in, and you can maybe pause it and read it yourself. But it's just essentially talking about the fact that, you know, games on cartridge, because of the circuit boards and the ROMs, as it's saying there, because they're so expensive, then, you know, to buy and to manufacture, then that's obviously always going to result in games going up. And again, what I'll do here is I'll go over this article very slowly, and you can pause it yourself and give it a read, because it really is very interesting, I think it is, particularly because it deals in the era, you know, that I love, that early 90s stuff. But it's relevant today as well. You know, talking about prices and where the money goes and all the rest of it. And really what this article has highlighted to me is how desperate, I mean, I knew it anyway, of course, but how absolutely desperate game companies are to essentially Did I just go up? I can't even remember. Apologies if I'm just going over the same stuff here. But how desperate they are for the future of games to go digital, because they'll just save an absolute fortune. And not just save a fortune, but they'll make a fortune as well. I think I'm just going over the same stuff, but apologies if I am. Like I say, just pause it, give it a read if you're so inclined, because it is interesting. Anyway, so that's that. And I've got a little light-hearted, tongue-in-cheek look here at the top 10 price of entertainment. So you get your games, your CD, cigarettes, cinema, comics, magazines, stamps, and video. You get how much they are, the initial hours of consumption, and then lasting effects. It's a little bit of a, like I say, a tongue-in-cheek look. For example, if you look at stamps, anyone who's interested in collecting stamps, it'll cost you around about £5. You get hours poring over the album, but the downside, lasting effects, severe unattraction to other human beings. So, like I say, a little bit of a light-hearted look there. Special Reserve, mail order company. Let's see if we can spot some bargains. There's Cadaver, $16.99 on the Amiga. The Amiga's the column on the left, the Atari ST on the right. What else is there? Let's see if they've got Rorke's Drift. That give you a little bit of an anecdote on Rorke's Drift. Not a very exciting one if it is there. There it is, Rorke's Drift. How much is that? It's really hard to look because I can't see on there, so I'm trying to tilt my head and look at the actual magazine rather than through the camera. Rorke's Drift. Not available for the Amiga? Oh no, there it is. $15.99 for the Amiga and $15.99 for the ST. Yeah, this is funny because I remember looking, it may well have been this magazine. It was a Games X magazine anyway. And I was looking through a copy of Special Reserve. Looking through this page, the advert of Special Reserve. As you can look at the prices there, pretty good. 70 quid for a Game Boy, 100 for the Lynx, 150 for a Mega Drive Alter Beast. But anyway, yeah, I was looking in my bedroom upstairs at this advert in one of these magazines, and I saw Rorke's Drift. Now, this had just come off the back of watching Zulu, which is obviously based on Rorke's Drift. And I wanted to get the game because I thought the movie's fantastic. Let's get the game. And I saw it in there for $15.99. I went downstairs, remember it like it was yesterday. My mum was talking to a friend of hers that was around called Donna, and they were having a chinwag as people do. And I went down. I went, "Oh, Mum, can I give you the money for this?" And you write out a cheque. And she said, "Oh yeah, no, not a problem." Now in hindsight, and it's only really dawned upon me quite recently. In hindsight, she just said that just to get me out of the room, because she was having a chat with a friend. And so I gave her the money, and I went, "Oh, can you send off a cheque?" She said, "Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow." And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, as I moved my thumb across the screen there, I don't know if you saw that. But yeah, about 3 or 4 weeks later, the game hadn't turned up. And she went, "Oh, I sent the cheque." Now, I'm wondering if she did. Now, if I brought that story up with her tomorrow, she'd never remember, obviously. But I'm thinking my mum stole my money and never did send the cheque off for Rorke's Drift. That's what I'm guessing. And then time just went on and I just forgot about it. And in fact, sort of forgot about it, almost to the contrary, because I hated Special Reserve for several weeks after, because they'd stolen my money as far as I was concerned. But yeah, I think actually more I think about it, I think the thief was a lot closer to home. But anyway, water under the bridge, absolutely. So here we have a review, the first review of the magazine called Logical, and it's for the Amiga. It gets 4 out of 5. So it doesn't look particularly exciting. Just a puzzle game, basically, but as they say there, puzzle games are renowned for being addictive, and spot on, they absolutely are. So I might have to check that one out. I don't think I'll be in a race to get it anytime soon, but 4 out of 5? Nothing to be sniffed at. We get a double review here. The first one is called Tangram, and available for the Amiga and the ST. This one's reviewed for the Amiga, 4 out of 5. Again, a puzzle game. Is there some kind of theme going on here? Is it a puzzle issue? Well, that's that. And the next one is for the Game Boy, WWF Superstars. Yeah, now I touched upon the last issue. I never actually owned a Game Boy first time round myself. I did get one a lot later, the late 90s, maybe even the early part of the millennium. But when I went on holiday to Tenerife, this was one that I took with me when I borrowed my friend's Game Boy. And so yeah, when I think of this game, I think of Tenerife in 1991, 92, whenever it was. So obviously, like I say, for the Game Boy, 4 out of 5. Yeah, I quite liked it. It was pretty good. Another double review here, and technically another real puzzle game, I guess. The Ball Game, 2 out of 5 for the Amiga. Doesn't look particularly amazing. We'll skirt over that one. Another Amiga game, 3 out of 5. These reviews aren't particularly great. This one's called Ghost Battle. And It looks interesting enough. I'd never heard of it before. Graphics look quite nice. It looks to be some kind of side-scrolling beat-em-up. I feel the graphics look amazing. That looks really good. At the top there. Yeah, it looks like a side-scroller, hack-and-slash kind of title. Might have to keep an eye out for that one. Ghost Battle. Only got 3 out of 5, but it does look interesting. The Jungle Book for the Atari ST. 2 out of 5, man alive, that's a bad score. I mean, graphically, it looks alright. Cartoony, as you'd expect, you know, from a Disney licence. I'm presuming it was licensed. You never know back then, do you? Back in those days, they just licensed anything. Licensed it themselves, they didn't need permission. You know, these days there'd be, you know, writs everywhere and people being sued right, left and centre. 4 out of 5 for the Amiga 4. Germ Crazy. I guess a bit of an educational game, in a sense. You know, what's the ones, I forgot what you call them, but there's games out like for the Wii, which, is it the Trauma Centre or something that they're called? I can't remember. Which is a little bit kind of gruesome, but you could say, again, just like I said there, it's kind of educational and interesting. Not something which I'm going to be playing anytime soon. So we've got some mini reviews. First up is Stormball for the Atari ST. In fact, 4 out of 5 are for the ST here. Speaking of 4 out of 5, that one gets 4 out of 5. Hydra. Atari ST. 3 out of 5. Gods. Gods is a brilliant game. I remember playing the music really loud when we had visitors round. I'll probably touch upon this story another time. I was kind of showing off. I knew they were there, and I remember just turning the sound up because the theme tune was amazing, and I wanted them to hear it. I thought they'd be really impressed. And they probably weren't, but I didn't care. You know, a Tomino for the Amiga. 5 out of 5. Wow. Again, another puzzle game. And Hero Quest for the ST. Another one which gets 5 out of 5. Possibly generous? I don't know. Tipex, with some cheats there for Total Recall. Horror Zombies from the Crypt. Populous. Super Monaco Grand Prix. Turrican 2. And a load of codes there for Bubble Bobble. Get a player's guide for the Mighty Bomb Jack. Yeah, I used to like that game on the Atari ST. I actually was watching it on eBay the other day, but it went to like 27 quid for the Amiga, and I thought, forget it. No way. Killing Cloud. That looks pretty good. 3D kind of adventure of sorts. Heard of it before, it's nothing new, but whether I've played it or not, I really can't remember. A player's guide for Hydra. And then Monkey Island, look at that, oh god, what a game. The Secret of Monkey Island, one of the greatest games of all time. I mean, just look at the graphics, cartoony, yes, but just absolutely timeless. And these kind of games, the point-and-click adventures that really make you think about, you know, how to make your next move and what you should do to progress, I absolutely love these. Point-and-click games, there should be more. There should be more, quite frankly. Gallup charts for all the formats. There's the Amiga. Swiv, number 9. Number 8, Final Whistle, which was a Kick-Off 2 data disc. Atari ST, Lemmings, number 1. Final Whistle again, number 2. Killing Cloud, speaking of, number 4. Dizzy for the CPC, obviously. For the Commodore 64, Dizzy, obviously. For the Spectrum, Dizzy, obviously. Unbelievable. And then for the Nintendo, I guess that was the NES. Just the top 5 there. Super Mario number 1, Double Dragon number 2, and then the budget label, obviously we see Dizzy at the top. Some things never change. Spitting Image, look at that, number 15. How many people remember that? What's this getting in on the game? Oh, this is again quite an interesting article. Highly probably irrelevant now, but back then very relevant. And it's talking essentially about hints and tips to get into the industry if you wanted to be a programmer. And how much you'd expect to earn, excuse me, and all the rest of it. So here we go, actually. The easy peasy 10-step guide to getting your game published. Number 1, write a game. That does always help. Ring around the software houses and find out the name of the program development manager. You can read the rest yourself, but yeah, easier said than done, I think, isn't it? But some nice little tips nonetheless. For people who were budding programmers back then in the early 90s. Dr. X and his sarcasm. Check that guy out. Do you really want to be a reviewer and look like this? Look at that. Was he holding some kind of light gun? Oh no, it's just a toy gun, isn't it? Got his Signosis t-shirt on though. Pretty smart. Console connections. So we've got Dragon Crystal for the Game Gear, getting 74%. Valis 3, I've never heard of it. It kind of looks like, looks really good actually, with the city lights in the background, the skylines. It's hard to work out from the graphics. In fact, the graphics, in terms of sprites, look good, but it must be the actual quality of the picture that was taken in the magazine, because they just look white. I mean, there's no colour to them. That's weird. It looks interesting though. So that gets 90%. F1 Spirit on the Game Boy, 80%. Probably very hard to pick those graphics up. And then we've got, what the bloody hell? Kaji Kai for the Mega Drive, 82%. Must be a Japanese game, and it looks really weird as well. Is it like a beat 'em up? Sort of like a double dragon, but with bigger heads. That's kind of that's interesting. And this is an interesting article as well. I won't go all the way through it, but it's basically Archer McLean. You know, responsible for the likes of Jimmy White Snooker. Oh, well, you see a few here, actually. 3D Snooker, which is essentially Jimmy White Snooker. Drop Zone. And IK Plus, which is an absolute classic. And look at him there. He's absolutely loving it. Look at his house. Nice little house. And car. He must have been absolutely minted. There he is in his English country garden. God, this focus is rubbish, isn't it? There we go. It does it like 20 seconds later. So yeah, I guess that's him just talking about how he made his money in the games and all the rest of it. Street talk. So where are we this week? Milton Keynes. So, here we are. Milton Keynes. If you're there, do you recognise any of these people? Let's go through them. First up is Alex Swindles. Brilliant. I'm trying to read what they're saying, but again, it's really hard sometimes to read through the camera. Oh my god. Peter Gross, or is that gross? Insert your own gag there. He thinks he looks pretty cool though with his kind of slicked hair. It's kind of going all over the place really, but with his denim jacket, clearly fancies himself as a bit of an Elvis. Got Matthew Davies, 35. Now, I'm not that far away from 35 really, and he looks older than me, if I'm honest. But that's interesting. Martin Davies. Oh, maybe that was his son. Or maybe it was his brother. You never know, do you? But look at the face on that. Loving it. He's only 8. Get off his back. Shop Talk. John Burnett and Chris Gudger. Chris wouldn't allow us to take a photo of her. Look at that. That's funny. John there, the manager. And he doesn't look young either, I mean. But to be fair, back then, you know, people tended to look older. I've touched upon this before. You'd probably find out he was only like 38. But he looks about, 67. Couple of mates there. Stuart Russell. And Dean Sartin. Say a couple of mates. One's 14 and one's 8. So that'd be a bit weird if they were still friends a couple of years later. Because, yeah, let's move on. It's David Russell. You get into all sorts of trouble with this kind of talk. David Russell, 21. Yeah, he's loving it. He looks, actually, this is going to mean nothing to anyone. He looks like one of my wife's cousins. Yeah. Let's move on. Arcade Extravaganza. So here we've got Street Fighter 2. Absolute classic. Everybody should love that game. It's one of my favourites of all time. Always has been, always will be. I say always has been. It wasn't my favourite game of all time or one of them in 1988 because I didn't know about it. But you know what I mean. When it came out, it quickly became one of my favourite games of all time. There's, what does that say? I can't even read it. Laser Ghosts. So a light gun game, that'd be interesting. Indie Heat, yeah, I had fun with that one. 2 players, I thought it was 4, or maybe there was an extra cab which was 4. Oh, actually, there's another wheel at the end with 3. Maybe it was just 3 then. We've got a sneak preview here at several games, one of them being Tentacle, Eldritch the Cat. I mean, that actually looks graphically kind of impressive for the, you know, the sprites, but it doesn't really show much about the game. We've got Under Pressure. Hang on, what's going on here? Eldritch the Cat. Is that the designer or something, or am I just, like, missing the point? I don't know, maybe I've just fallen foul to some kind of gag there. Can't both be called Eldritch the Cat. But yeah, Under Pressure. I remember the game called Under Pressure. It looks alright. And then Tip Off by Anko. Tip Off and Anko obviously made the Kickoff 2 game, so it kind of looks relatively similar, you know, that kind of overhead view, but obviously of basketball. Now, this is quite hard to get on the Amiga. I remember picking it up around about 10 years ago for about 10, 12 quid, but there's not many copies around. It could probably fetch a lot more. Very hard to come by. Go Global. Brilliant. So the latest news that was doing the rounds in late May 1991. So yeah, as per usual, just talking about the music that was out at the time, and the movies, the TV shows. It mentions Paula Abdul on the right-hand side. Arnie there, Terminator 2. Now, it's funny thinking about Terminator 2. Let me give you a bit of an anecdote. I'll go over this and then maybe touch upon it if anything is interesting. You can just kind of look at it and read it yourselves. But yeah, Terminator 2, I remember it would have been, I guess, in late 91, 92, whenever it was. Me and 3 other friends went to see it, or we tried to see it at the cinema. And the problem being is we were all underage, because it was a 15 movie. We were all underage, but we were all 14, apart from one of my friends who was 13, you know, a year and a bit younger than us. And but we thought we'd try our luck anyway, you know, chance our arm, and we all went up there, all 4 of us, and the woman, the bloke, whoever it was like, how can I help? And I said, right, 4 tickets please to see Terminator 2. And he goes, right, fine, or she, whoever it was, said, not a problem. They started to put them through, and they went, how old are you? And I said, 15. And he went, okay, and he went through all of us, and got to my friend at the end, and he was only a year and a bit younger than us, but, you know, it sometimes makes all the difference when you're that age, because some people grow, you know, a lot quicker than others, and he just did not look 15, he really didn't. So my friend was like, you know, I'm 15, and, you know, squeaky kind of voice, I'm 15! And the bloke, or the woman, whoever it was like, you're not, well, I'm sorry, we can't let you in. And we're like, oh, come on, I mean, what are we going to do? Because it was either my birthday or it was someone else's. So our parents had dropped us off at this Tower Park is the complex that it was called. Had like a cinema, bowling and swimming pool, had everything, you know. And well, what are we going to do? So we just kind of almost resigned ourselves to the fact that we weren't going to be watching Terminator 2. But then I, and it would only be me, had this bright idea of going back to the same place. I don't know what possessed me, just the naivety of youth. And but me myself going up there and buying 4 tickets, and then that way, you know, my friends wouldn't be around me, and then I could just get the 4, and then we'd all walk in. So my 3 friends walked into the actual cinema, you know, where the arcade machines were, and you could buy your popcorn and your drinks and all the rest of it. And I went up to the booth to buy the tickets, went straight up to, it was a different person, I wasn't that stupid, but it was right next to the other person, and I went, right, yeah, 4 tickets to Terminator 2, please. And they cottoned on straight away, and they gave me the tickets, which was a little bit mean, really, but I could tell something was going on, because they were kind of looking around. You know, maybe it was just my paranoia, but it was actually proved to be true, because they knew what we were doing. And I went in there, kind of waved the tickets in front of my friends, I was like, got them, how easy was that? And just as we were going in, this big beefy bloke comes up and he's like, oh, sorry lads, can't get in, oh, you're not 15. And we were like, well, we are. And he was like, well, he's definitely not 15. Pointing to my friend. So we didn't get to see it. I mean, why did they sell us the bloody tickets? So we were really annoyed. And it's funny because at the time there was another movie on, and I remember it was called Lorenzo's Oil. I'm pretty certain it was called, or something like that anyway. And I was like, well, should we see that? It just looks rubbish. And in the end, we didn't. And we got our money back. And we went to the Quasar Laser, which is probably, maybe not as good as Terminator 2, but we ended up seeing it a few weeks later anyway. But we went into Quasar Laser and had a good laugh there. Then went into the Mega Bowl, did some bowling, and went on the arcade machine. So it was a great day in the end. But it's just funny how when I think of Terminator 2, I automatically think of that story of chancing our arms trying to get the tickets when it was never going to work. Actually, let's go back. Was there anything that kind of stuck out there? Not really. Yeah, I remember these monster things, but by this time, you know, I was nearly 14. Still a kid, obviously, but I was moving away from things like this. You know, you're getting into girls and you're getting into music and whatever else for that matter. So, yeah, I'd left all this kind of malarkey behind. But still interesting. Speaking of Gaza, there's a Gaza board game there. And I don't know what the bloody hell that is. Oh, Lawnmower Man. Interesting. But not a particularly exciting Go Global that month, so no wonder. I think it was about 3 or 4 issues from this They knocked the whole thing on the head, the Go Global thing. Sometimes it's interesting, but that one really wasn't all that. Letters page, exit. I don't know what the one candle's for. Maybe it's his first birthday. Looks a bit old for one. Roy the Rovers. Yeah, I used to get this. Anyone else remember this one? Basically, Roy the Rovers was a comic that came out every week, and it followed the life of Roy, who played for, was it Melchester Rovers, I think, wasn't it? And obviously pretty much every storyline had him scoring the winning goal in the last minute and all the rest of it. But I think, and I do stand corrected on this, but it's a little bit of a sad ending. Well, he survived, but he was involved in a plane crash in the... he's not real, don't worry, it's only a comic. But in the comic, he was in a plane crash, survived, but I believe he broke his leg or something, he couldn't play again. Something like that. A little bit of a downer. But I think he went on and became manager and obviously won everything in sight. And then at the back, we've got an advert for a game called Cybercon. Is that Cybercon 2 or 3? I can't even work that out. From US Gold. Or maybe it's just Cybercon. So there we are. Oh, and look at that as well. I haven't seen that logo for absolutely ages. Seen VG. Zero. Does anyone remember that one? And then the 1. And what's that one? ST Action, yeah. Oh, a few more here. Amiga Power, speaking of. In my last video that I did. See you, Amiga. Amiga Format and Amiga Action. So that's that. There we go. Issue 5 of Games X from the 31st of May, 1991. 1991. Incredible. See you later.